just wanted to pop online really quickly just to tell you a bit about what to do with the data now that you've done, or hopefully have done, your FTP test. So yesterday's session on the turbo was an FTP, which is functional threshold power. We did the test which you do for 20 minutes. So you ride as hard as you can for 20 minutes. That will give you a 20-minute score. You then take 95% of that to give you your FTP, and you can then from that work out your zones and work out your watts per kilo, etc. But I just thought, rather than you send the data to me and me do it individually for you, actually if I show you how to do it or what to do with that data, you can then just go and do it for yourself, and you can then do that every time you repeat your FTP. You can go in and recalculate your zones. So I'm just going to try and share my screen with you. Let's have a little look. Okay, so if you go on Google to, I literally just type in British cycling and power zones. Like I just type in British cycling power zones to Google, press enter, and then it takes me to this site. I can share the link with you if easier. And this is a brilliant site just for working out all of your zones automatically for you. So if you were working from heart rate on the FTP test, you can see what your average heart rate was for the 20 minutes, and you can just pop that into there. So let's say it was 175 and calculate, and then this website will calculate all of the different zones for you in terms of heart rate. So it starts nice and easy, active recovery, up to endurance, then up to tempo, threshold, VO2 max and anaerobic capacity. The reason that's NA is because you should just work as hard as you can. So you can do it for heart rate, which is great, but you can also do it for power, which I think is absolutely brilliant because there's no other variables with power. You know, with heart rate, you might be stressed and your heart rate goes through the roof, or you might be fatigued and therefore you can't get your heart rate up. But with power, like you're either holding the watts or you're not. So if you just scroll down a little bit on this website, you can find where to put in your average power from the 20-minute test. So if I pop mine in, and then you can pop your weight in as well, and then click calculate, and basically it will calculate for you all of your zones in power, in watts. So for example, my endurance zone is from 128 watts up to 177 watts, and anything within that range I'm operating within my endurance zone. Something this has that the heart rate zones don't have is something called sweet spot. Now, for those of you who've joined me for turbo before, when we talk about being uncomfortably comfortable or comfortably uncomfortable, where you're working at it, you're not dead, but you'd rather stop, that's the sweet spot. That's the point at which you get into a nice rhythm. You know that you're working at it, but it starts to bite after a while. So my sweet spot range is between 205 and 216 watts. And so I know if I'm cycling between those watts, I'm within my sweet spot range. The other thing it will show you at the bottom, so again, it's got all of the zones, and it will show you what your actual FTP is. So notice that is slightly different, slightly lower than the 20-minute score. Okay, so the 20-minute score gives you one lot of data, so say 245 watts, and the FTP is 95% of that, because that's worked out what you should be able to hold for an hour for 60 minutes, because we only did it for 20 minutes. It will also tell you your watts per kilo. And this is really interesting actually, because let's say I was 10 stone heavier than I am now, and I've still produced 245 watts in the 20-minute test. It doesn't necessarily mean I would go as fast out on the road, because I would be 10 stone heavier. So the watts per kilo is quite useful to keep an eye on. It might also mean in 6 weeks' time, if I was to repeat the test, I might get 245 again, but I might actually be, I don't know, 2 kilos lighter. So actually I have improved, although my watts haven't, if that makes sense. So it's always really useful just to make a note of your power to weight to watts per kilo. So what you can then do with this, and this is what I do, I then take a screenshot of this and I print it out, and I have it next to me on the Wattbike, so I know exactly what my zones are. And then for those of you who have a Training Peaks account, if you go into Training Peaks and just click on your profile at the top and go into settings, if you then click down the left hand side into zones, you can then populate the zones here. So you can put your heart rate zones in, ignore the swim ones for now, or go down to here to power. So there was my last FTP. So I can change that, and then you can either get this to do it for you automatically, so you can choose which method you would like to apply. But to be honest, I never use any of these methods. They're just not something I've trained with before. So I literally sit, I know it takes a bit of time, but once you've done it, I literally sit and copy over the zones from the British Cycling website. Okay, and I literally sit and just do that until I've completed all of the zones, and then I click save and close. And so that will keep it all stored for you there as well. And it will also make sure it's calculating, for those of you on Training Peaks, your training stress score accurately, etc. So hopefully that's helpful, and you can now work out the zones for yourself, and you can do that again when you repeat the test. But if there's any queries or any comments or anything you're not sure of, just drop me a message. But I just thought, what's that saying? Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, but teach him how to catch fish and you feed him for life. So I'm hoping I fed you for life in terms of FTP and power zones. Okay guys, have a great day. Catch you later. Bye.